out of 4 people had to distance themselves from immediate family.
So dealing with family, what some of y'all might be going through during this season. So welcome to the NOIRPOISED podcast, where wisdom is power is more than just a motto.
It's our way of life.
Happy holidays, everybody. It's finally the Christmas season, the best time. Well, the second best time of the year because I'm a summer girl.
Oh, the summer.
You already know. Summertime. But happy holidays. Hope you guys are enjoying time with your family this time around. And as we approach Christmas and New Year's, we were like, we probably should discuss some topics that are more catered to what some of y'all might be going through during this season. So we were like, what are some of the things that we hear people talk about during the holidays? And it's all too common, but going home, right? You go back home, especially for those that are around, your adult age and you're not living at home anymore, and you have to go back home to family members that you've kind of like grown apart from, became distant with, or, you're not the same person you were, but they don't understand that. So dealing with family. Yeah. Although it's usually it's fun, right? But then we have those moments, you have certain members that will make certain comments, will apply certain pressure, especially for people who aren't married yet, people who haven't had children yet, people who are, who haven't found a significant other yet. It's always a thing.
I would say the people who make you say, oh yeah, I remember why I left.
Yeah.
Or I haven't been here.
Right. At least I feel like the examples I gave is more catered to like what women may hear. Do men hear similar things when it comes to like marriage, singlehood?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like y'all don't get the same pressure
on women, or it's more embarrassing for women, but the guys hear the same things.
I mean, I don't think it's embarrassing.
It seems like it is.
No, I don't think it's embarrassing. It depends on the woman, of course. I'm not going to say it's not the case ever, but I do think it's more so annoying than it is embarrassing. Because it's like, imagine like all the things you already think about regularly, you're fully aware, right? And then you go to an occasion and you're excited. You're like, oh, I'm going to see my loved ones that I haven't seen in a while. But like throughout the entire event or occasion, you're hearing the same questions from each and every person.
Right.
Like that's irritating. So I don't think it's even just like they're embarrassed. I think it's more so like, this is annoying because we could really be talking about something else. We could be talking about like how I'm doing on a general aspect, not when am I getting married, when am I having children, or, when is this going to take off? Like we can have different conversations. So I think for women, it's more so like, leave me alone, bro. Yeah. So for men, if you had to think of like some examples that men go back home and hear or have to deal with, it doesn't even have to be like comments or questions, but just have to deal with, what would you say it is?
I would say actually very similarly to women. It would be, because the ultimate level for a man is fatherhood and being a husband.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
it's the same for us.
That tells
really?
Yeah, because that tells society like this guy is doing something right. Like money's good, yeah, but just think about all the stereotypes when you look at the playboy and you look at the guy with the wife and kids. The man with a wife and kids always gets more respect. Like you're doing something right to be able to not just take care of yourself, but take care of a woman and take care of children at the same time. So I don't think it's as much as women get that, but
maybe
men
that's
definitely do get the when you're gonna have kids or when you're gonna settle down, like maybe something's wrong with you, kind of thing. You do get that kind of shade thrown at you, but also if you're not financially where you need to be.
Yeah, I would think it's more so that.
I think it's a combination of things.
Okay.
But if you're not financially where you need to be, if you're not in a worthy career, you get all that kind of shade thrown on you, and you get compared to other people, like to other guys, which I know it irritates women, but it's very demasculating to be compared to another man. Like I think there's no other worse feeling than being compared to, look at so and so, he's doing this, why can't you do that? And unfortunately, a lot of family members put that pressure on men, which I think causes them to just go away, honestly.
Yeah, I've actually seen that. I think I personally know people who just avoid it altogether, where it's just like they know what questions they're going to be asked, so they're like, there's no point in going.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them, to be quite honest, because it's just like, how many times do you have to hear the same questions and have to re-explain yourself? And
Right.
the reality is, after a point, it's like, I don't want to explain myself.
Yeah.
Like, I shouldn't have to explain myself. Like, it's my life, my choices. I do what I want with it, and I shouldn't have to explain to people why I'm where I'm at. You know
Right.
what I mean? And
Yeah.
if I do want to explain to people, then I would do that on my own time, not at a family function where there's like mad other people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I never realized that was the case for men when it came to like fatherhood and
Being a husband.
yeah, and being a husband.
Yeah.
I always thought for you guys it was more so like finances, because at least in my family I hear, yeah, you know, it's no big deal for him because men have time.
Right.
That's always the case. It's always men have time. But for women, especially in Haitian culture, they tell you do not date. Okay, it's l'église, l'école, la caille. So that's church, home, school. And then the minute you're at that year of graduation, like you hit 22 and you're expected to graduate from college, they're like, so where's the boyfriend? And you're just like, wait, I don't get it. You were just telling me 3 months ago that I should focus on
Right.
these 3 things. Now you're asking me, where's the boyfriend? So for women, once you're out of school, they're like, so what are you doing with your time? Like, now get it together.
Yeah.
And during this day and age, a lot of women are spending the time with themselves before they do that, and finding themselves before they do that. They're venturing out and living on their own. And that's not understood in family dynamics where the older generation, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the older generation, they just don't comprehend it. And so because of that confusion and misunderstanding causes like conflict.
Right.
Like, I'm married with a child, and I've had a family member literally tell me I'm wasting my time because I haven't had the second one. Mind you, I have a 2-year-old, so it hasn't been that long, but boldly told me, like, in those words, like, you're playing games, you're wasting your time. Like, you should have been had the second. I was like, when did you want me to pop out the second? 6 months later? Like, I'm like, bro,
It doesn't even
chill.
make sense sometimes what they criticize you.
Yeah.
But something that I struggle to understand is, why is it more irritating when it comes from family versus society? Is it because they know exactly what to say, or is it because they're just closer to you?
No, I don't think that it's more irritating, at least in my opinion, because the difference is with society, like, how often am I like talking to people outside? Like, you know what I mean? Like, they don't know my personal life. So yeah, society in general, like if I'm on social media, you may see certain things, or like if you're watching something on YouTube, you may hear certain things, but it's a generalized like opinion. So it doesn't have to be specific towards you.
Right.
Versus I'm going home for Thanksgiving, or I'm going to a family function for Christmas, and I'm in a space where there's a bunch of family members and I'm being targeted.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not saying like that's my experience, but in that's the experience of a lot of people our age now, especially when they haven't done the things that the older generation views as like, that's the purpose of life and only the purpose of
Right.
life. So it's not that it's more irritating, it's more so you're being bombarded in an intimate space.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? It's not like with online opinions and television, that's just a general perspective. So people are not targeting you and saying, Sam, why haven't you this, that, and the
Yeah.
third? Versus an aunt approaching you and say, Sam, why you don't got the second one yet? You know
Right.
what I mean? Like little things like that is just like, it's more irritable because you
Right.
also can't run from it. I can
Yeah.
change the channel. I can swipe,
true.
but I can't leave this event without, you know.
I saw a YouGov poll. It's a couple years old. I think it was from 2015, but it showed that 1 out of 4 people had to distance themselves from immediate family, and I think that's pretty significant. That's 25%.
Yeah, that's
And
wild.
I
But
feel
I
like
think
no
that's-
matter
that's
who
the
I've
new
spoken
norm.
to, that's always been the case to some degree,
Yeah.
whether it's your parents or a sibling or aunt or uncle. And I think one of the reasons why is nothing ever seems good enough. Where they may have one kid or one person where that's the gold standard of the family. So everyone else, if you can't live up to that, you're failing. But I feel like a lot of times even your good news to them is not good enough news. Like, have you ever brought good news to a family member and they just shut it down with some kind of comment? Like, I think it was when I first started journalism or something. I was excited about it because it's the first time I just left the medical field of nursing. I said just left, like I was part of it. Like I barely was getting through.
You changed your major.
Right, changed my major. And when I started journalism, I was so excited because it was the first time that I was good at something. I didn't have to try as much. I didn't have to study as hard, and I was getting, great grades. But then when I told someone about it, they just completely shut it down. Like, that's it. That's all you're doing.
Oh, wow.
So I think that's one
Like
of
a loved one, though?
yeah, a loved one.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that's an example where I think for me, what it did was it made me hesitant to share good news, because it's like, it may be good news to me, but once I bring it out there to people or to
They
family,
may not be as
they may not be
receptive.
as receptive, right?
Yeah, I could see that. But to go back to the stats about 1 out of 4 and why that is, I honestly think it's because we can't choose our family, right? So we're born into family. So you deal with certain personalities that may not blend well with yours for all of your life. So when you have the opportunity to create the family that you would like, you then realize that you do better with distance from some individuals. So I think as far as that, I think it's really just like you grow up, you realize like, yeah, me and this person don't really vibe well together. I love you, but not on some we're talking with each other all the time or we're spending a bunch of time together. So I think that distance then creates more distance, because now when you're not seeing them regularly, you're not aware of how they're evolving and how they're changing.
You start growing apart.
You start growing apart. And when you go back home to events and stuff like that, and you're talking to this person versus having like intellectual conversations and like meaningful conversations about like where you've been and how things have been for you, it's more so like, how do I say it? I feel like with family, sometimes they have a perception of you at a specific time frame of your life or a certain age, and that's just who you are to them forever. So if you guys were close around, like, not even close, but like if you were seeing them more often or they knew things about you when you were like 10, forever that aunt or uncle is going to see you as 10-year-old Sam. And if you were close to a cousin around like your teenage years and now you're not, they're always going to see that version of you because they don't know how you've developed.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think those questions sometimes, one, I think family often doesn't recognize boundaries. Sometimes that's a personal thing. I think it's a them thing, but I think it's also because they don't know who you are and they don't know that you don't accept that type of behavior anymore, or you're not going to tolerate it. So there's that. And then I also think if I'm talking about the older generation, there's just no filter.
Yeah.
Like they really just have no filter. So to them, they don't know they're doing anything wrong. Like their generation is all about critique. It's like, okay, it's literally go to school, graduate, marry, have children, get a home, get old. Like that's really all life is about for them. So when you haven't done that and it's not at the age that they expect you to do it or the age that they did it, it's then considered like a terrible thing. Like, oops.
So unprofessional.
My bad.
Goodness. We're live, people.
We really are. My bad. Silent.
Put mine on silent too. Make sure mine on silent.
My bad. So I think it's that. But yeah, so all in all, like I think just it's a bunch of different things that then creates that like tension at family events. But how do you think people are to deal with that, right? Like, because you can always not go. That's the reality. You can always avoid seeing family. To each his own. I understand when people do it if it's like a real toxic situation. We've talked about toxicity, and sometimes you have to distance yourself in order to grow to who you want to be. So that's totally understandable. But in situations where it's not necessarily that it's toxic, but it's more so like, oh man, I got to deal with this. You know, like that's usually what it is for most of us. So in situations where it's like, I got to deal with this, like what would you say people should do, or what do you do? I should ask. I mean, your family's not that big.
Yeah,
though,
my family's not that big, but I've had to still deal with toxic comments, not just from my family, but yours as well.
Yeah.
But I just prep myself in advance, and I just tell myself they have no idea what they're talking about. Because it's easy, like just taking I think one of the common ones is, why aren't you married yet, right? So let's take that topic. If you know you're doing your best to put yourself out there, you know that you're not willing to rush anything. If someone brings a comment to you, what I would normally do is, if I let their words impact me, then I'll start forcing myself to make unwise decisions. So I just tell myself in advance, just ignore them. And one of the tricks I just learned actually is creating distance, but you can create distances with your response. So like
I was about to say elaborate on that because I think that could help. That could help me.
so if someone says something disrespectful to you or you feel like it's uncalled for, disrespectful, don't respond immediately. Let there be an awkward silence.
So what was online?
Yeah.
I recently was seeing I saw a few videos about that, like the importance of silence.
Yeah.
That the silence in conversations when you feel disrespected allows the person to recognize that they were disrespectful.
Right.
But you don't respond in a disrespectful way. The silence lets them know what it is. It's just like, I'm not going to entertain
and
what you just said.
The video I saw was saying how you should let there be silence until it gets awkward. So it's not just to take a few seconds to respond, but let it get awkward to let the person know, like, oh, I was looking for a reaction and I didn't get that reaction. And which leads me to my second, what I would do secondly is don't give them the response or the reaction they're looking for. So we've been learning a lot about pendulums and just energy. How it works is we're told to fight fire with fire, but when you fight fire with fire, you just get more fire. So
Facts.
when someone brings you fire, learn to just bring water. I don't let what they say just get to you. And what I do also, lastly, is I reward myself afterwards. Like if someone makes a comment to me that was really hurtful and I respond accordingly, I wasn't disrespectful, I didn't fight fire with fire, I'm like, listen, go on Amazon.com, get yourself something nice. Like,
I'm done.
You create a reward-based system, so it's not, you don't feel like you're losing out. Like kind of like, man, I wish I said X, Y, and Z. Where you take that energy and just bring it somewhere else. So
yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I love all that, but let's be realistic. No, I you know what, let me not say let's be realistic, because it is possible to do that, and I think it really is. But let's think of the people who haven't gotten there yet to be able to stay silent, right? Because most people haven't. Most people, especially if it's a situation where you're at a family function and it's not like, oh, one person made a comment, two people made a comment. Oftentimes, if it's a situation like the examples we gave, and especially if you're a Caribbean family, if you haven't gotten married, if you haven't had kids, if you haven't found a man, and you are in your 30s, for a woman, it's not going to come from one or two people. Every person you say hello to is going to be like, so when are you getting married? Why haven't you had a kid? Where's the boyfriend? Where's that? Like, I see it happen to family members, like to the point where I have family members say it to me about the person.
Right.
Do you get what I mean? So it's not like on some like, yeah, one or two people said it. It's usually like you're bombarded. And it, depending on how your family is, if they like to crack jokes, it may be a situation where you have two or three people like down your throat at the same time. So it's not even like individual conversations. So in a situation like that, it's like, yeah, I want to choose water. Like, who wouldn't want to choose water? Mentally, you're telling yourself, choose water. Choose water. Oh, really? I feel like your mind is saying choose water because you know it's the right thing. But
yeah.
Right? Or is it the heart?
I think your heart would say choose water, but your mind is like, no, let me fight fire with fire kind of thing.
Maybe I got it backwards.
Because a lot of these people who are criticizing, they want to talk, you know.
True. That's another thing. But point is, one side of you is like, all right, I want to choose water. Like that's the right thing to do, to choose water. But after it's been happening consistently, you're like, screw this. I'm bringing bigger fire.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? So in that case, like for someone like that, I think, yeah, you may know all that information, but in the moment of being constantly triggered and attacked, you're not thinking of that. Like, you're going to blow. And even if you don't blow in that moment, you're going to blow when you leave. So
yeah, well, I can't answer for women what they should do, because I think it looks different what a man would do. And it may give people insight into why you don't see certain men around holidays, but I just wouldn't go. If I knew that I was gonna have to face comments and I'm not ready to deal with that or even respond to that in a good way, I just wouldn't go.
I guess that is different.
Yeah, because
I feel like it's easier for men to. But what if it's a situation like you're one of three, right? What if it's like a sibling event, or if it's your mom's birthday event?
Yeah,
where you know, okay, I have to go.
Yeah,
but you're not gonna go to your mom's event.
Yeah, I mean.
Like, what would you do? You wouldn't go?
No, I would go if it's something like that close.
Okay, so you went.
I would go.
You went to the event. You're at the event now, and now you're being bombarded by like
point me to the bar. I was gonna say point me to the bar, but
That's funny because one of the things I've read
Yeah.
is like to avoid alcohol because
Really?
that usually makes you choose fire.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess it
So
makes
if you're
people
more
differently.
level-headed, you
Yeah.
probably will be able to choose water. But
If I have to go, then it's just just take the punch, roll with the punches. You gotta do what you gotta do. The event is only 3 hours long, 3 hour 20.
cut it in half.
Yeah, cut
Be
it
there
in
for
half.
an hour and a half.
Right, like just try not to be as present. I would say, but again, I think it looks differently for women because society demands more from women for their family, so you can't just dip kind of thing.
Yeah, I see that.
So what would you do?
Honestly, I mean, what I would do is I ain't even gonna say what I would do, but I would say, honestly, I think that choosing if you're capable of dealing with it mentally and emotionally, and if you really feel like you can't deal with it, then I'm at the space now where I'm like, choose your sanity, bro. Like I'm really at that space now where if it's someone who loves you, they will understand or respect your decision, even if they don't understand it. So if it's that real where it's like family members are super duper toxic, choose your sanity. If it's more so like, this is irritating, I don't want to have to hear this, but it is what it is, I have to be at this event kind of thing, there's options of taking periodic breaks. I do that regularly. I'd be like, all right, I've been talking for about 30 minutes now, I'm a little drained, let me go step away and check my emails. So little things like that, like just taking periodic breaks away from the crowd can often help. And then choosing not to interact as much. Like I also do that too, where like I could be in the space and if someone says something funny, I laugh, but I don't need to be so engaged in the conversation as much. Yeah. And if it's people who are really disrespectful, I think the silence thing is a really good option, like choosing silence over giving a response that can come off wrong or giving a response that you don't want to give. Right. I think silence works. But also if it's that real, bring someone with you too. I think that has helped me. I think being in spaces with you, if it's a space where I'm like, I don't really want to deal with it, but if I have you there, I know I have someone to fall back on when I'm getting a little bit overwhelmed. Right. So I know I can quickly just go sit next to you, or we can go to the bar and be together and have a conversation and people won't interrupt you when you're having a conversation. So that's always a helpful tip.
That's a good idea, actually.
It doesn't have to be a significant other. It could be a friend, or make sure your closest cousin's going to be there.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's actually a pretty good idea. Having a designated family member,
who gets you, who knows what you're thinking and how you feel about the situation, because then they'll stand up for you. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm learning now, even with us. Like in the beginning of our relationship, when it came to family, I'm like, I'm not gonna overstep because that's your people. You do what you gotta do. But now, if I feel like if it'll hurt you in any way, I have learned to respectfully stand up for you. So that way you don't have to give a response, but it also lets the person know, like, no, he's trying, or no, we don't have to talk about that kind of thing. So I think that's helpful. Ultimately, at the end of the day, choose what's best for your sanity. The holidays, especially family functions, are supposed to be a joyful thing. So if it's not going to be, then in my opinion, it's just like, why bother?
Yeah, why participate?
Yeah, but I understand that there are events that you have to go to. Christmas may not be one of them. New Year's may not be one of them. But I understand if it's like a close family birthday, like a parent or a sibling. But if you don't have to go, don't go, bro. Choose your sanity, create your own family dynamic. And that doesn't have to be blood relatives. I'm learning that family is often relationship versus blood. So enjoy your holidays. Enjoy them.
See you guys.
Thank you for spending your time with us. We hope you gained some knowledge today that'll promote poise in your life. We have new episodes uploaded every Thursday right here, same place, same time. Until next time, you can follow us on Instagram at NOIRPOISED Podcast to stay connected. That's NOIRPOISED Podcast. We'd love to hear your feedback.
And remember, your wisdom is power. Bye.